Hey there, neighbors and naysayers. Clint Finney again. May the 3rd, 2023. I want to take videos when the Spirit moves me, and the Spirit moved me here today. Just a thought that I don't think we promote as often as we ought to. The cows come off of this field Wednesday evening in the rain. Up until this point, they'd been doing a really good job of topping grass. But what we got going on in this field is this field was unrolled on 3 years ago. So it's got a whole lot of a mix of forage in it. Orchard grass, bluegrass, annual rye, red clover, white clover. This was before we started planting chicory and plantain, but they didn't do as good a job. They were awful selective, but it's actually grown back a bunch since we were up here. And if I walked up on top of that hill, but I'd get in the rain. But the upper part of this really is diverse compared to this lower part. We didn't unroll bales right here around this telephone post. So dumb me, I pressed the record button in the wrong part of the field, but it's windy. Been doing a really good job at not being so selective in other fields, but this one they are. But the point of the day here is the fields that are solid fescue, they're not being selective. The fields that are solid something else, they're not being this selective. But the fields that are mixes, they're pretty selective and only picking out parts. This happens to be where the water gets put all the time, and so that's why it's grazed short, because it gets seeded a lot. The thought for the day, though, is the rest of our farm where we haven't fed bales is pretty much almost a monoculture of fescue. I say that and don't mean it. It's probably 70% fescue, and maybe even lower, maybe 60%. But to me, it feels like a monoculture. 60% fescue, 10% orchard grass, 20% legume, and 10% forb. Where the fields that we have bale grazed on or unrolled bales on are a whole lot more diverse, because we've obviously put seed in it, but we've torn it up too. So the thought of the day here is sometimes we have to tear things up. Sometimes disturbance is worth it. And I had an old man tell me that at a Heart of American Grazing conference almost 20 years ago. And it took me a long time to understand what he meant, but this is exactly what he meant by that. Sometimes a little disturbance is a good thing, and this field was pretty beat up when we got done unrolling on it. Actually, it's got a whole lot more fescue in it now than it had last year before. Just a take-home message. I'm standing here looking down at my foot and going, look at all the clover in among these holes where those cows have grazed. The clover's not going to take off in those heavy fescue spots anyway, so okay, yeah, that's going to get rank. We'll mob graze that later. We'll deal with it then. But in all of these shallow parts where they were pretty selective, there's a lot of clover. So they banged that. The clover will now release, we hope, and fill in those patches. We would really rather they be not as non-selective. Actually, they could have stayed here one more night in the morning, but I can't do that anymore because I can't be here in the morning to move them across the road. So they had to go when they went. But take home message here is we can do some damage now and then and come back. Now, I'm not a proponent of damaging your whole farm or a whole paddock even, maybe. The upper part of this field, we never even let them get close to that because it was close to the road and just the way we needed to feed. So they didn't hardly touch it. It's old, rank, end-of-fight infected fescue with no diversity whatsoever, and they didn't even go up there when they grazed this. It still looks like it did when I turned them in. But a little bit of disturbance is not going to hurt us any. Now, I don't want gullies. I don't want completely bare and denuded soil. The fescue that's here is fescue that survived the bale grazing. We didn't plant it. It survived. And then, of course, the seed bank is in there, and all the hay we feed's fescue too. But some disturbance is okay, because we can then infuse new genetics, new seeds, new things. They say nature abhors a vacuum, or nature abhors a monoculture. I don't know that that's true in the case of fescue. Fescue will take over everything. The thing is, nature doesn't like a monoculture in that it will then change from fescue to multiflower rose to blackberry to trees, and then it will be a diverse stand of trees. That's how it gets away from being a monoculture. We need to force it back to a non-monoculture the other way, to forbs and legumes, and the way we do that is with animal impact. Now, I put seed on this, and I know I have folks that listen to these that say, I don't like to put seed on, I just want to deal with the seed bank. Listen, for what it costs me in seed every year, it's worth that cost to have those new genetics of seed in there. And I'm not a big genetics person when it comes to forages. I just mean it's worth it to have that diversity more than genetics, I guess. I misspoke. Worth it to have that diversity. At $5 a pound for clover, and we put 3 pounds of clover on an acre, it's worth it to me to have that down. It's worth it to change the diversity, change the sort. One more piece out of this too is notice when I brought the sheep out, and I've yet to do a video up there with them yet this spring, but when I brought them out, I had a pretty heavy worm load. This is the first year we've had really a worm problem. Probably came home on a buck goat or a ram that we brought home, and just now has manifested itself. So we just have to deal with that. We knew we were going to get in that trouble sometime, but when I turned them out, I noticed they all went straight to the forbs as fast as they could go. They went to the chicory, they went to the plantain, they went to the multiflower rose, they went to the blackberry, they went to those forbs and started eating. And that's because they tell us of the tannins in those things. It helps them to clean their system of the worms. So anytime we can put diversity out here, legumes for the nitrogen, but also for the protein, forbs for the tannins, just for the difference in soil biology too. That's why we want all this diversity. But we need to, every once in a while, tear some things up. And I don't mean with steel, I don't mean with a plow, I don't mean with a disc or column mulcher or whatever we're going to use. I mean with animal impact. We need to animal impact this every once in a while and make it happen, make it change, make it become diverse. With that, I'll say, see you next time.